Suha al-Sher is a mother. She has 6 beautiful children. They once had a life in Gaza. It was a simple life, but it was theirs. They had a home filled with laughter. They had dreams of a better future. Now everything has changed. Suha's heart aches with worry. She is separated from her children. They are trapped in the heart of a war zone. Suha remembers tucking her children into bed the night before she left. She remembers their warm hugs and sleepy smiles. She promised she would return soon. She never imagined that promise would become so difficult to keep. The war erupted the next day. It shattered their world. It stole her children's innocence. The days that followed were filled with agonizing phone calls. The connection was often poor. The sound of her children's voices, filled with fear, broke her heart. She longed to hold them close. She yearned to protect them from the horrors unfolding around them. She felt helpless, thousands of miles away. Every news report, every image of destruction intensified her anguish. She saw the faces of other mothers just like her, searching for their children. She heard the cries of the wounded. She felt the collective grief of a city under siege. Her only solace was the hope of reunion. Suha's husband, Ahmed, had been battling a serious illness. Doctors in Gaza could no longer provide the necessary treatment. He needed specialized surgery. It was only available in Egypt. Leaving Gaza was a risky proposition. The political climate was tense. The borders were often closed. Suha wrestled with the decision. Leaving her children behind was unthinkable, but her husband's life was at stake. She prayed for guidance. She consulted with family and friends. She knew that staying in Gaza could mean losing Ahmed. The weight of responsibility fell heavily on her shoulders. She was torn between her duty to her husband and her love for her children. It was a choice no mother should ever have to make. She made the agonizing decision to accompany her husband to Egypt. They left Gaza just one day before the war erupted. They crossed the border with heavy hearts. They were leaving their children behind in a precarious situation. They hoped the conflict would be short-lived. They hoped their family would soon be reunited. The war descended upon Gaza with terrifying speed. Bombs rained down from the sky. Buildings crumbled into dust. Streets once filled with life became paths of destruction. Suha watched the news in horror from her hospital room in Egypt. Her children's home was destroyed in the bombing. They fled with their neighbors. They sought refuge in a crowded displacement camp. The camp was overflowing with families who had lost everything. There was little food, limited water, and almost no medical supplies. Suha's children were living in squalor. They were surrounded by sickness and despair. They witnessed scenes of unimaginable suffering. They heard the constant roar of explosions. They lived in constant fear for their lives. The war had transformed their world into a living nightmare. The vibrant city they once knew was now a wasteland. Their childhood was stolen. Their dreams were shattered. Their future was uncertain. Section 4. Children of War. Trapped in a nightmare of scarcity and fear. The displacement camp offered little respite from the horrors of war. Food was scarce. Long lines formed for meager rations. Suha's children often went to bed hungry. They dreamed of the meals their mother used to prepare. Clean water was a luxury. The limited supply was often contaminated. Disease spread rapidly through the camp. Suha worried constantly about her children's health. She knew they were vulnerable to illness. Medical care was almost non-existent. The few remaining doctors and nurses were overwhelmed. They lacked essential supplies. Suha's children had no access to basic health care. They were at the mercy of fate. The psychological toll of the war was immense. Suha's children were traumatized. They had witnessed death and destruction. They lived in constant fear. They needed comfort and reassurance. They needed their mother. Section 5. The Struggle for Reunion. A Mother's Desperate Attempts. Suha has made countless attempts to return to Gaza. She has contacted international organizations. She has pleaded with authorities. She has exhausted every avenue, but her efforts have been in vain. The borders remain closed. Travel is restricted. She is trapped in Egypt, separated from her children. Every day feels like an eternity. Every phone call is a reminder of their suffering. She clings to the hope that she will soon be reunited with her children. She dreams of holding them in her arms again. She imagines their smiles and their laughter. She refuses to give up. Section 6. A Plea for Humanity. Hope for a Future Reunited. Suha's story is a testament to the human cost of war. It is a cry for help from a mother desperate to protect her children. It is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope endures. Her children are innocent victims of a conflict they did not create. They deserve the chance to live in safety and peace. They deserve the right to a future free from fear and hunger. Suha pleads with the world to hear her voice. She asks for assistance in reuniting with her children. She calls for an end to the violence that has torn her family apart. She believes in the power of humanity to make a difference.